What's up, y'all? Cliff and Chandra here from Not Gospel Studios. Game of Thrones has been over and done for a while now, and if you're like me and you've been reading all of the books and you've been waiting on George R.R. Martin to finish Winds of Winter, don't hold your breath, because it's been almost a decade now, and he's going to continue to keep you waiting because he's been working with HBO on House of the Dragon and many other shows. We just watched the trailer for House of the Dragon because you told me we should watch it.
Oh, really?
That's what happened. I'm letting this is all the behind the scenes gossip. Chandra said we should watch the House of the Dragon trailer. We just watched it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I thought it looked like an excellent trailer.
Really?
I thought it was a well put together. It made me excited for the show. And I like that it looks like there's going to be more dragons in this one.
Well, there definitely will, because according to the history of the books, I think it's kind of around the settlement of the original Targaryens, who they conquered everything with 3 big dragons.
Do you know how far ahead that this is supposed to be from the series?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a couple hundred years.
Oh, that far.
Or something like that. Or maybe just like 100 years, maybe, because it may be just 2 or 3 generations away from Daenerys Targaryen.
They didn't say anything about White Walkers in this, so is this going to be one of the times when they're not going to be there for hundreds of years?
Yeah. When the Targaryens came in and reclaimed Westeros, the White Walkers hadn't been a thing since the time of the First Men. It had been 1,000 years or so.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I don't even have to worry about that.
Yeah, the White Walkers are not a thing.
So is this a book? Or is this all made up for a show?
Now that I don't know for sure. I know I watched an interview with George R.R. Martin when he was talking about how if you're a big fan of Winds of Winter, he said in the past X amount of years or whatever, he was able to lock down several hundred pages. Last year, he was able to lock down several hundred pages or so on Winds of Winter. But that book's going to be 1,200 pages long, so it's like, could be another 5 years before we see it, or he may die before you get Winds of Winter. Like, that's just reality. But apparently he's been working very closely with HBO on this show, among other projects for HBO. I think there's even an animated series they're going to do in the land of Westeros, maybe.
An animated series?
I think it's, if I'm not mistaken. I wish some of the themes weren't just so on the nose. Because part of what I see in the trailer, visually, the trailer looks great, in keeping with seasons 1 through 7 Game of Thrones. Seasons 1 through 7 Game of Thrones, fantastic. Season 8 might as well be a dumpster fire, in my opinion. Did not like it at all. Totally unearned choices by the characters, in my opinion. But story-wise, I feel like it's a story that I just hear all the time.
Which is?
A woman cannot be the king.
Okay.
I wish that wasn't the big narrative, because we've heard that so many times. You know, she's a woman. She can never be the king. It's a queen. It's like, I can't help but think that with George R. R. Martin being a fantastic writer, it's not going to be done. It's going to be done well, of course. But even then, with George R. Martin being an executive producer on Game of Thrones, they did what they did in the ending. And depending on who you are and how you feel about it, a lot of fans of the show are like, season 8 was terrible, or like it was really bad the way they ended it. So they've proven that they can take a very, very good marketable product and make decisions that people are just like, meh. So to me, although the trailer looked really good and it looked interesting, the story right now isn't as compelling as action, big CGI dragons, and big landscapes. Because I'm like, I feel like that story's been done before. You've got a guy who wants to be the thing and who wants to be the king, and you got a queen who's technically should be in line to be the king, but she's a woman.
Well, to me, that's like saying you can't make another love story because they've all been done.
Well, it depends on the specifics of the love story. Like this, so you can make a story about a succession all day long. Like, but I feel like this story, especially right now in our woke culture, the culture that's embracing, patriarchy's bad. The story that has been sold often all the time now is like, a woman can rule, a woman should rule. It's the whole thing that they were talking about with Hillary running for president. Even that was like that narrative in real life. Yeah, you know, kind of just unfolding. And I, for one, and maybe it's because I'm a dad with 3 boys, I'm kind of tired. That's a tired narrative to me. at this point. Again, I said the trailer looks great. And the music, I was charged in by the end. I was like, the dragons, like you said, dragons going in, doing big moves, and she's riding the dragon. It's a big deal. But I don't want a rehash of Game of Thrones. I don't want to see another version of Daenerys riding the dragons and doing her thing. It's like, I want to see something new and something different. That they did, a choice they didn't make in Game of Thrones. If they do that, I'm all on board.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Well, like you're talking about with the woke narrative thing, if it is our current political situation projected on some fantasy thing for millions of years ago, yeah, that's silly. But if it's just telling a natural man-woman since the beginning of time type story, I don't mind that at all.
We've talked about masculinity being under attack and all this kind of stuff, and thinking that men can't be men or shouldn't be men. They should be beta males, and
well, that's why I think
the future is female, and that kind of, you know.
That's why I have hope that it won't just be like a woke narrative.
Yeah.
Because it's set in a timeline where the men are very masculine. There's all kinds of stuff going down.
If the characters have depth, I'm down.
Yeah.
If the guy character isn't just made as this evil, terrible man who probably shouldn't be the ruler anyways, and she's just like this Mary Sue who's like all the right things, and the only reason she can't be the ruler is because she's a woman, because men are evil, I'm on board if that's not the narrative. If that winds up being the narrative, I'm like, come on.
And I liked that it showed a lot of dragons.
Yeah.
Like, last time we only got to see like 3 dragons, and one particularly. Like, I'll be happy if there's a whole lot more dragons.
There will be 3 dragons.
Why not more? Like 1,000 dragons.
That's the history of that's what happened.
Oh, is there only
they brought in
number of
3
time?
dragons. No, they brought in 3 dragons. That's how they conquered Westeros. Now, they had dragons over time, and they kept having baby dragons and all this kind of stuff over the centuries. So how many dragons we see will depend on what time frame this is in.
Yeah.
But I think you're probably looking at a couple of different dragons on repeat throughout those scenes is what I think.
I want many dragons.
I don't think you're going to see thousands.
I wonder if they're going to try really hard to live up to the expectations that you came to know with Game of Thrones. Like, what was it, the Red Wedding or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
they may just slaughtered a whole family and you didn't know it was coming. You were interested in their storylines, and now their storylines are gone. And so I wonder if there's going to be big things like that in this one.
I read that chapter twice. I finished it and turned right around and read it again because I could not believe what I just read. As if I was going to read it different. Like maybe I caught the wrong words. I read that in the book and I was like... I went back and read it over again.
Now, I don't like when writers put in shocking stuff just to shock you.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there is going to be that kind of shocking level of stuff.
Well, the thing was, he set that precedent. It's George R.R. Martin. So if he has, it depends on how thick his hands are in the process. If he has a lot of developmental control, then you're going to see some changes and some choices that you did not expect. You're going to agree with them or not. Like Ned dying in the first book, that happens in the first book. Like, boom, he's dead. And when it happened in this show in Game of Thrones, you know, Ned Stark, you were like, oh, that's like the dude. You can't kill the dude. You know what I mean? And
that's like the one rule of writing. You don't kill your main character.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his perspective was the first perspective you get in the book. The book, have you read any of the books?
No.
The books are all, this chapter is Tyrion Lannister. This chapter is Ned. Like, and you're reading from their first person point of view. So you feel like you get to know the characters so much. Each chapter being from these different point of views.
Are the books approach pornography as much as the TV series did?
They definitely HBO'd the show. But there is adult content in the books. Almost all of it is kind of essential to the narrative of the books, I would say. Especially compared to the HBO series. In the HBO series, I mean, in the very beginning, you're going to have lots more of it because they're trying to draw an audience, so they need nudity and gay and scenes and whatever else, like you name it. It's not as pervasive in the books, for sure.
Okay. Being a Christian, and a Christian in the spotlight because you're in a band and you have a podcast, all this stuff, would you feel weird recommending someone to read or watch the series?
Again, it's how you feel about it. Like, I could tell somebody, if you're a really big fan of fantasy, I would recommend Game of Thrones to you, but I would do it with a disclaimer. Now, some people, your brother was talking about that. Some people will call that censorship. You know, like if I, hey, you could read Game of Thrones, but be warned, there is sexual content in there. Like it's for mature audiences, and you decide whether or not. And they go into detail about some things, and they say certain words that you wouldn't want to say. I wrote a book. I mean, in Man of God, there's there's times where my dad was in the military, and there's some choice words that are said, and I talk about them. And I said it, and I would tell people who buy it for their kids, I say it's in there, you know, just to let you know, there's a couple of choice words that are in there, you know, because my dad wasn't always this perfect Christian dude. It's like, if you're wanting that story, this is not it.
Yeah.
So I could recommend it to him, but I just say, I'd recommend it to him knowing that there may be some judgment, knowing that they may be like, oh, you read that? Oh my gosh. People out there may be like, I can't believe you read Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I did. And I would read Winds of Winter when it come out. And I read a bunch of other things too. And I've read the Bible a bunch of times over. You know, it's like...
To me, reading is one thing because you can kind of skip over things. Yeah. You see it coming, you can just kind of flick through it. It's not as intense as, oh, you're watching TV and all of a sudden there's boobs all in your face, you know.
There's definitely in this series, it's HBO. So I guarantee there's going to be some softcore pornography stuff in it. It's just the way it is.
What I think is funny is I literally would look at a lot of this stuff and say, yeah, that's either is pornographic or approaching pornography. But I think most people who watch regular pornography wouldn't even think that was pornography. They'd be like, it's some boobs, no big deal.
Do I recommend a bunch of softcore porn and stuff to people and Christians? Like, no, I don't recommend that. Like, what you put in is what comes out. Like, there are some shows, however, and things that I've watched that have crass scenes in them, and I can skip through them or turn my head and things like that. But if you don't think you're that kind of person who can do that without lusting and falling into those traps, then no, don't watch it.
I definitely wouldn't watch it with kids.
Oh, you can't watch that with kids.
No.
Like, period. What did you guys think about Winds of Winter? Ha! Just kidding. This is not Winds of Winter. We'll never see that book. George R.R. Martin, if you're out there somewhere, buddy, write the book. No, what did you guys think of House of the Dragon? Do you like the trailer? Do you think I'm being overcritical? Are you excited for it? Do you think it's too crass for Christians? Let us know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for your support of quality independent content. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And as always, keep being awesome, because that's how God made you. Let's talk about it.